as I observe outside, I see a lot of boys today not in their disciplined behaviors. If a man can take care of himself, he's more than capable enough to take care of people around him. I found that men are always more on the one person side, or at least 2, 3 people or 5 people. They don't gel along easily with everyone around them.
Hello everyone, good evening, namaste from wherever you're joining, and welcome to another episode of Men's Talk Town. And today I'm again here with one of our eminent speakers, guest on the show. And I'm sure you're going to love his journey, love the way he's going to talk about the Men's Talk Town points. So let's welcome Mr. Ronak Vora. Hi Ronak.
Hi Sonali, thank you for having me. Namaste everyone.
Absolute pleasure, and I must tell the viewers that he is one of the persons who commented on my show. That is when I launched the show. He was the first one to say that this looks very interesting and I would like to talk about it. So that was very upfront and very nice of him to say this. And later on, I understood the reason also that why he said that, because once I read his biodata or brief about him, you will come to know about the same. So let me introduce Ronak in few lines. Ronak is an IT enthusiast turned into a fitness advisor, healer, and a men's coach. To date, he has successfully trained and consulted more than 2,000 plus individuals, gave 5 plus keynote speeches, got featured in 10 plus interviews, now 11, magazines including TedX, News Karnataka, and many more. Wow, that's amazing. And he's also authored 2 books, Fitness Guide, Simplified, and The Self-Confidence Blueprint. That's amazing. Wonderful, Ronak, and welcome again to the show.
Thank you for the lovely introduction.
It's obviously an honor to have you here on the show. So tell us briefly about your journey, like what is this about fitness and what keynote you talk about, or how your journey has been.
So fitness happened by passion. It has been my passion all the time, all these years. It's been almost 9 years that I have been in this industry, very closely observing, working with leaders in the industry, also working on myself as a person who's into weightlifting actively, weight training. And fitness then turned from a passion to a profession, because I couldn't relate with the work I was doing in my IT jobs in the MNC. There was not much of adventure there, so I thought, okay, it's time to shift gears. And since then, fitness has been my passion as well as my profession. And from there, long story short, lockdown happened. I transitioned into full-time online coaching. I started 2 of my ventures, which was into training and coaching men, and then consulting the companies. And that's how men's coaching began for me in the year of 2020. That's when lockdown happened. So Conscious Male Society is our community, is where I have trained all these men, and I'm still training them as we speak. They are across the world, so it gives me pleasure and absolute honor to bring some value in their life and help them wherever they are on their path.
That is wonderful. I think fitness is one of the most important aspect of life, and also after COVID especially, people have started understanding the importance of fitness and yoga and all these things. So I think you're doing a great job, great work about in this field. So now coming to the topic, when I say men's talk down, the idea is to understand men's perspective about women, because when we are talking about women empowerment, the men's support is equally important. And what do they think? So my question would be like, how do you support women in your life, on personal front or professional front?
I think that's a very good question. To give you the answer to this professional front, I am talking to one of the flight lieutenant, whose show is about men's talk time, and I'm here. It's my honor to support you in this venture that you have began for men, which is, I think, a very important aspect of our generation, where there have not been much voices that supports men, so I'm glad that you're doing that. So that's one way I support professionally all the women who are in my life, number one. Number two, of course, I also am a mentor to a lot of underprivileged kids. So kids who are male, female, who are into college. So there are a lot of organizations that have support groups. They mentor. So we come as a mentor and we educate those kids, help them in their career aspect, be it in terms of confidence building or cracking interviews or anything like that. Yeah, that's one part, supporting them as however I can in my capabilities. In personal front, of course, I have beautiful women in my life who are my friends, my sisters, of course my mother. So I make sure that they are being treated nicely, they are being treated fairly and equally, and they just do not do all the work by themselves. I even though I support and believe in masculinity very much, but I do not support and believe in traditional patriarchy, which is a woman should be doing all the household only. I feel it can be an equal way for both the genders to support one another. So I make sure, if my girlfriend as well, I make sure that I support her when it comes to all the household work, or be it some small chores or anything like that. So that's how I make sure that I'm making my input there in both these areas.
Right. I think you've answered it very beautifully. And here I will have one more question for you. When you say that you want to support, or they should not do all the work by themselves, or when you talk of your mother or your sister or ladies in your life, so how does it actually work for you, or how do you think that men can actually do this? Because I think nowadays men do have that tendency of helping. They do it, but many times teenagers don't understand that. I mean, especially I'm talking of boys, that this is a phase where they should, help their parents or their mother or their sisters. So how do you think that this thought process can be inculcated at a young age with children? And since we're talking about
Right.
men, so I'll talk about boys. And how do you think this will be done?
Right.
Yeah.
So, as I observe outside, I see a lot of boys today not in their disciplined behaviors, or not really in their focus. They are all about having fun, going with the flow.
Right.
Which could be good in the short term, in the short run, but in the long run, it's not gonna be any benefit for them. There's this quote, I think, by Marcus Aurelius. It says that hard choices now, easy life later. Easy choices now, you'll have a hard life later. Right. So it's all about the choices that they make at this age. So obviously, if I were to mentor or coach a boy who's in his 18 or 20s, I would obviously ask him to get his focus on building himself. That would mean first working on his body. Could be any form, could be sport, could be weight training. But there is a lot of research that shows that weight training is that one component which helps you put on muscles. So when you put on muscles, that is natural sign of confidence, right? It also makes you feel attractive. It also makes you feel very strong and confident. That's the number one thing I would do. Number two would be to help him get in a routine of sleeping time and waking up time should be more or less the same, because in his prime days, if he is primed correctly, getting older, when he's in his 30s or 40s, he would be in a good shape, and he would not look like in his 40s.
Right.
That's the whole aim for me as well.
Right.
People always guess my age lesser than what I am.
Absolutely.
That's a good sign.
No, we won't.
I think those two
we
things.
won't tell anyone you're 60.
Of course. So those two things I think I would inculcate in a boy, in a young growing up boy, because discipline. I mean, it's cliche, right? I mean, it's been abused, these words like discipline, focus, and all of that. So I don't want to make it sound like that, but the foundation is really, really important. You can't go into all these pleasures, all these short-term attention-seeking behaviors. This quick dopamine fixes. That's.
So do you think that this kind of discipline, they're also going to get into a mindset of helping women in their lives?
That's a very good question. So let me answer it this way. If a man can take care of himself, he's more than capable enough to take care of people around him. Does it make sense?
Absolutely. And I think this is a very beautiful point you have said, because why I'm saying this is, when we are talking of teenagers, you first brought in the point of discipline and foundation, which needs to be strong. So when you yourself are groomed or proper and disciplined and fit, that is the time also you are going to look around and have that feeling of, okay, yes, what else I can do. That mind shift also will be happening simultaneously. So it's wonderful. I think what you said is, I totally agree with that. And why I also mentioned this point, because as people grow with various experiences, definitely they change. But when we talk from the younger age of children, then this this tendency of not helping or teasing women or not respecting them is kind of starts.
Right.
Yes, a little bit of fun or prank or all these things. We are not curtail it altogether.
Yeah.
But the intention is to get it on the right track. That's all. Because nothing is perfect in life. So, coming to the next question, what do you think? What are the myths associated with women generally when you talk about in your field also, maybe? Or you think that women can do better in some areas? Or how do you see? Like, if you have seen around you any example or your friend's place or anywhere, like professionally or otherwise?
So I think women are already doing very well. I mean, I can see one of them is in front of me as a leading example. I don't think women need any more motivation. They are doing the best they can, all of them. In fact, I saw a report on LinkedIn News, I believe, few months ago that there have been more female hires than males, so that says itself that women are there on their toes, doing the right things. Having said that, some of them get into that entitlement, right, of I'm a woman, now I have the power, I can behave the way I want. I don't support that kind of feminism, because I just think that does not make you powerful, that makes you want to abuse the power that you have been given to help someone, right? So I feel that the nature of the woman, the feminine, has always been nurturing, loving, community building, and empowering. So fortunately, I've had few of these ladies in my life who have touched my life in a way that I have understood about true feminine essence. So I think a lot of women today who are into corporates, of course, need to balance their feminine energy, because being in the corporate, or you are more in the masculine dynamics, so that kind of makes you controlling, that kind of makes you do power play, that kind of makes you take a position that puts the other person down and puts you on the top just to boost your ego, so all of these things, I don't feel that makes anyone, be it a man or a woman, powerful. But I think now that we are seeing a new wave of feminism, all of these women who are, some of them are abusing feminism, some of them are spreading the right kind of feminism. So I believe the truth about this subject should be brought in the spotlight.
Right. So as you, one of the points, as you said, that the basic nature of women is, the loving, caring and compassionate. So in one of the news channels also, I had seen this, that while hiring for kids, for the nurseries and all nursery classes, or they usually prefer women because by nature they are that way. It's not that men are not, but in certain qualities we get by nature, that is there. And also other aspect, what you said is that of power play and women having this corporate lifestyle and all. So here I think it's very necessary to have that balance, because on one front we hear a lot of women have to prove themselves in a world of men. They have to struggle, or they have to keep proving themselves that I am good, or I am worth this position or this particular post. Whereas some of them get into this negativity of having what I can say it is get overpowered by these kind of situations. So we need to, they need to have this balance. And I think here it is equally important that if there's a project or an office setup where more men are around, then they should be also be cautious, and not cautious in negative term, or rather they should not consider that, okay, because she is a female, let's not include her in so and so type of work, or assuming that she won't be able to take it up, because it can be vice versa. So I think equal opportunity by way of talking can always be done, and also by seeing their every team person's strength, not going by the gender. So that is very important. So I think this brought out a lot of good points, I would say, from your end. And just like one of the basic questions, I would say that what are the qualities or skills you would like to take from women, or you think men can take from women? Or
wow, that's a good question. A few months ago I had exactly written an article on this on my LinkedIn.
Oh, is it? Okay.
few qualities that I really admire in a woman and all men can learn from. Now, I can't recollect exactly what were those writings because, sometimes writings come to me in that moment and I just write
Yes,
it
I
down.
understand.
Those words don't appear again.
Absolutely.
But I'll just give you a small gist of your question. I think number one should be collective, including people in your circle, not making it just one person centric, but making it as a collective. And women do that very well. They, are known to form kitties, like kitty parties. They are made to form groups. Of course, men do that, but I found that men are always more on the one person side, or at least two, three people, or five people. They don't gel along easily with everyone around them, right? So that's one thing. Second, I would say the skill to bargain. Of course, negotiations always really helps you when you are in business or you are in jobs. So I think negotiation is good. That's one thing. Third, I would say empathy. Yes, that's one thing that we all have learned from our mothers, especially being empathetic, being patient with the child. Similarly, you can show that same empathy and patience towards your patient, towards your client, towards your kids. So I think these 4 points comes on top of my head right now that I feel really could help men. Of course, empathy and patience are the must. I mean, I'm sure men are very much good in negotiation and forming circles, but empathy and patience, yes.
I think you brought out more points than I could think of regarding women. So that's very nice. That's very observant, I would say. So one last question I would like to ask you is that what are the 3 points? It may not be three, it may be more or less, but what are the general 3 points you would suggest to men to make this society a safer place? Like when we are talking of workplace and when we are talking of harassments towards women. So what are the 3 points you would like to tell men in way of dealing with women?
Okay, I think there should be a school, and you never know. I'm work in progress. Few years down the line, if my vision can come true,
Okay.
I really wish to see a school or an institution where boys become men and they are taught the things that are really required for their physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual growth.
Beautiful.
Because all these four elements, or these four areas, physical, mental, spiritual, and emotional, are the core areas of anyone's life.
Right.
So if boys could, or even men could get more education insights on these areas, they would have more perspective. They would have a clear lens to look at things, to deal with things, to deal with society.
Right.
Number two would be of course to give them a mission, a purpose beyond the materialistic things. Because if you look at the army men, they are just driven. I mean, of course, you know that very well as well. They're driven. They have their eyes on the target. They have their goals on the target. So they don't get persuaded. They don't get so easily persuaded. You can't persuade them so easily. You can't influence them. I think that's two things most important. Third would be to, at the same time, educate and teach women how to respectfully say a no to a man if he is, let's say, asking you out for a date, giving the man the reason. Okay, this is why I cannot go out with you. Most women would say, why do I justify this? A no means no. But I don't think that's a very valid way to answer that, because you never know. On the other side, the man might not have that much self-image, but if he still asked you out with all that courage, and you just said no, so you don't think about the other person, right? So women should be more thoughtful on how they communicate, because I'm sure women do not communicate clearly. They always give you hints, and it's like you decode, read between the lines for me,
Yes,
Mister.
yes.
But if only for a woman could communicate more clearly, if they could give a more reasoning to the man, be it anyone, leaving a job, saying no to a date, could be anything, could be any
But don't you
situation.
think this depends on the? I mean, I'm sorry, I'm interrupting you. But this last point, what you said, is more dependent on the relationship of with that person. He is not loaded.
Correct. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Of course, if it's a very new relation, I don't. But at the same point, Sonali, what I also feel is every human needs to know some context.
Okay.
Could be wrong, could be right, but this is just how I would like to treat people to me, and I would treat them.
Okay.
So let's say if I am talking to a woman for like past 4 weeks, 3 weeks, and things don't work out, and I don't happen to like her, I would not say, hey, let's not talk anymore, or I would not just ghost her. But that's what people do usually. I would say, okay, I don't think this is working out between us, because I feel I am seeking something else. I don't feel it here, something, so that the woman could also have some context, so that they don't take it personally.
Right.
because mostly people today have a very low self-image issues today. So if you don't give a proper reason, they might take it personally, and that will affect them in the further times. I hope that makes sense.
Absolutely. And I think a very wonderful 3 points you brought out. That one is having their mental, physical, spiritual health up, emotional health up. Second is having a goal driven attitude. And third is like giving a reason for your behavior. And this applies to both men and women, is what you are saying, which.
Of course, I mean, not when someone is, treating you wrong
Yes.
and still justify
Yes.
that. Of course, the person has to be pure. The intention has to be good.
Yes, intent
No?
matters, of course. Intention matters.
Yes.
So generally, you're saying, I mean, not on the negative behavior, but when you have a kind of
Yeah.
a rapport with that person, at least
Correct.
justify it.
Correct.
So that conversation would not get into
Yes.
negative later on, which usually happens
True.
if you hurt a person or if you.
See, I'll tell you, from a boy's point of view, like let's say, if a woman says no, or I can't go out with you, that's it. The man would start to make negative, image about that whole collective ladies, women, that I can't trust them.
Yes.
They're not meant to be trusted. They never tell you truth. They're manipulators, and you would hear the same from women for a man as well. He's a manipulator. He's a liar. He's dating multiple women. So this is just destroying the whole dynamics of society.
I think you said it very rightly, very, very rightly, that yes, more clear communication would solve many issues. Simple communication would probably resolve many issues. So I think one of the best conversations that I had till date, and thank you so much, Ronak. If you want to add anything else, you're free to add. Else,
I think it just takes courage to live free, not hurt anyone, speak your truth. It just takes more courage, even to communicate clearly. Even though we all of us we know on a subconscious level, but it takes courage to let that subconscious also speak for you.
I couldn't agree more, because being a communication coach and by telling people all these things, because most of the things goes into assumption and where the problem starts. So I think yes, you have said it very rightly, and a lot of good points were brought during this conversation. So I'm very thankful that you came to the show and we had this long.
Yeah, finally we
did
this.
this. We were discussing too. Yes, 3 cheers for us. So thanks a lot, Ronak, and a pleasure meeting you. And thank you.
Lovely, Sonali. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.